In a previous video, I was talking about the leaning palm tree and how it can teach us a bunch about what our problems are when we have piriformis syndrome. Let's imagine for a second what you would advise this palm tree to do so its tight muscle could relax. You'd probably say, first, try to stand up straight. If you stand up straight, your weight is balanced right in the middle of your trunk and none of your muscles need to work very hard. Well, obviously, the way trees work, it can't just simply change its posture per for suggesting something that's impossible for trees. But as a human, you can. Then you would try to find out why it is leaning to the left in the first place and do something about that. For example, it might be that the wind is always blowing from the right, bending the tree to the left. So we might want to replant the tree where the wind comes from a different direction, or better, where the wind changes directions all the time, so the tree doesn't always get bent in the same direction. Or maybe the reason is that the soil is much softer on one side of the tree than the other, so the roots are sinking in the ground and on one side, but not the other. If that's the reason, we would want to fix that. Just by looking at the leaning tree, however, we can't tell what the cause is, and we need some time figuring it out, just like you need to for your body. Let's say it's the wind that's the reason why the tree leans sideways. Do you think that the tree would lean sideways if, let's say, the wind blew in that direction 3 times a week for half an hour each, and for the rest of the time there wasn't much wind? I think that's quite unlikely, right? A little bit of wind blowing at the tree, half hour, a couple times a week is not going to make a difference. It takes much more wind than that, like probably many hours a day, most days of the week. You probably found out from the test in the previous video that your pelvis is quite unbalanced. The reason you are unbalanced is something like the wind always blowing and coming from the left, or the soil being soft on your right. We don't know what it is for you, but we don't actually need to know that to make progress. What we do know is that it isn't something that happens for half hour 3 times a week. In other words, the thing that makes you so unbalanced is something that happens many hours a day, most days of the week. In other words, the problem is the way you use your body many or most hours of most days. So the way to make progress is to use your body differently for most hours of most days. Remember, I said something about do this exercise 3 times and you will be fixed. Is not how this works. Nope. You need to start using your body differently for most hours of most days. It doesn't work any other way. This is really important. It also tells you you cannot fix your problem by seeing your physical therapist 3 times a week for half an hour each, regardless how good the therapist is or how hard you work at it. Just like the palm tree wouldn't straighten itself out if the wind blew in the opposite direction 3 times a week for half an hour. You can't solve this problem with some little thing that you do for half an hour 3 times a week or whatever it may be. You have to make changes to your life for most hours of most days. This is hard because we are so set in our ways, in the way that we use our body. But if you want to get better, you need to do it. Fortunately, you can make it more fun by turning it into a game. Simply do the opposite of everything you usually do. And I mean everything, particularly the things you do regularly or you do for a long time. If you like to sit on the couch to watch TV, stop. Lie on the floor instead. If you exercise on the treadmill, stop. Go swimming instead. If you go swimming, stop that and jog around the neighborhood. Just do something different on a regular basis. Not just once or twice, but on a regular basis. Stop the old stuff, do new stuff. If you work with your laptop on your lap, find a way so you look up at the screen rather than down. Oh, right. For example, you could use an external keyboard and a monitor stand. Everything related to computers is something to pay lots of attention to and do the opposite with, because we spend so much time in front of them and we usually forget our posture and how we interact with them. So pay a lot of attention to what you do with the computer, do the opposite. And the same thing is true for a phone. Pay lots of attention to how you use your phone and use it the opposite way. Up, instead of down, down instead of up, left, right, everything. So many injuries come from computer and phone use. For example, I noticed I was using my right hand for the mouse. So I taught myself how to use the mouse with my left hand. And now I have actually two mice, and I switch back and forth using the mouse on the left hand and the right hand all the time. I recommend it. If you bend down to empty the dishwasher with your right hand, go into your knees instead and use your left hand. If you like to sleep on your left side, try sleeping on your right side. Make it a game. What else can you do to do it the opposite way? Just like the palm tree, make sure the wind blows from the opposite direction for most of the time. Not just some of the time, but for most of the time. Otherwise, how could you straighten yourself out? Some of it will be very uncomfortable and clumsy, like when I started using my left hand for the computer mouse. Of course it will be, you've never done it, but you can learn, and it's much better for your body. And one more thing, go take a hike. Take lots of hikes. I found when I had my most pain that it was the single most comfortable thing that I could do, hiking around rough trails in the nearby hills. Not just in the neighborhood, but actually up into nature. Getting there was a challenge. I couldn't sit, so I couldn't drive a car. But hiking up and down some beautiful hills and forests was less painful than even lying in bed, hiding from the world with a bunch of painkillers. It will also cheer you, and it will work your pelvis, which is what you want. So make the hikes long and have fun. Don't take out your phone. Look at nature instead. I've come to believe that human bodies evolved to be really good at hiking. And when something is wrong with our bodies, we could do worse than go back to hiking. It's certainly much better than, say, sitting in front of a computer. So have some fun in nature. It will help your body and your soul.